In the past, I've shared the essays that I wrote for my applications to Stanford, Columbia, and Brown, but one school that people keep asking me about is Tufts, and I figured that today I'd finally do it. I'd finally share the essays that I wrote for my Tufts application, so let's get to it. Alright, so I have my Tufts essays pulled up and I'll just read through each of them. I'll read the prompt and then the actual essay itself. Just one thing to note is that the prompts have slightly changed since the time that I applied. They're essentially pretty much the same in terms of like what they're trying to get at, but just note that the wording of it is slightly different, so the essays might also slightly be different than what they might be had the prompts been different. And as always, my essays aren't perfect by any means, and I really don't think that they are like some kind of ideal that people should really strive for. I kind of just have it here as an example for you guys to reference. But in all honesty, I'm just some guy that happened to get in, and these essays were the ones that happened to get me in. So I'll be reading them today, but just keep in mind that these essays were looked at in the context of my whole application. So there's a lot here going on that you don't see in just my essays alone. So take it all with a grain of salt. But with that, let's get to reading. Which aspects of the Tufts undergraduate experience prompt your application? In short, why Tufts? 150 words. I wouldn't have expected to see someone wearing a Tufts hoodie on the streets of Seoul, but that's when I realized just how worldwide the jumbos really are. Through my summer in South Korea with Nisli Y, I developed a keen interest in international relations. I'd love to further explore East Asia through the civic semester in Kunming. Typically, it's rare for incoming freshmen to spend their first term abroad, but Tufts believes in accessibility of opportunities for all students. As a university with one of the strongest IR programs in the world, Tufts is committed to its mission of developing active global citizenship, with thought-provoking classes like Who Owns the Past and Women and Gender in the East Asian Tradition. I will be challenged to re-examine how I perceive and engage with the world. And maybe next time, I'll be the one wearing a Tufts hoodie halfway around the planet. Whether you've built circuit boards or written slam poetry, created a community event, or designed mixed media installations, tell us. What have you designed, invented, engineered, or produced? Or what do you hope to? 250 words. When I first started my YouTube channel, I wasn't expecting much from it. I enjoyed vlogging about my daily life in Korea because I wanted to have something to look back to when I returned to the US. It was also an easy way to show my family and friends back home what I was up to. The other students in my program also enjoyed being a part of my vlogs, showing them to their families and friends. Just like that, my audience had grown 20 times larger. Soon, through the power of the YouTube algorithm, people from around the world started tuning in. 5,000 people were watching my daily adventures navigating around Korean life. After I returned, however, I didn't have anything left to film. Still, I enjoyed YouTube, so I decided to turn the camera back on. It wasn't anything exciting, just a live stream of me talking while doing my homework. To my surprise, there were people watching. But they weren't there to watch me do homework. Instead, they were all messaging one another in my comment box. My YouTube channel had turned into a community where people from around the world could share stories with one another. From the boy in Virginia discussing Peppa Pig lore to the girl in Warsaw trying to teach me Polish slang. At Tufts, I hope to find the same kind of community where we can all gather around and tell our stories. And hopefully, I can start vlogging once more. So those were the essays that I wrote for my Tufts application. Not too many supplemental essays for this school. There were only 2. And just like I mentioned, one of the prompts is different. It was the second essay, slightly different on the application this year, but same general vibe that they're going for. The first prompt, however, is still the same. It's the Why Tufts essay. And I think that overall, my essays for this school weren't particularly that strong, at least in comparison to the essays that I wrote for some of my other schools. But I think that in consideration of like my entire application, like the activities I had done, my Common App essay and everything else, I think it all came together pretty nicely. And so my supplemental essays, while perhaps not as strong individually, they kind of fit together like puzzle pieces with the rest of my application to create a more cohesive narrative, and that is what ultimately got me accepted into Tufts. And that's just something that you want to keep in consideration when you are writing your supplemental essays. Even for other schools that are not Tufts, you want to make sure that all the different parts of your application kind of talk to each other and communicate to build a bigger, better product. It's kind of like the saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, because there's like this like synergy between these different parts of the application. So yeah, these were the essays that I wrote for Tufts. Hopefully they can spark some creativity, some inspiration in you guys as you're writing your own essays. And as always, just want to make sure that while you guys can use these essays as a sort of reference guide to help guide your own writing, just make sure that your writing is your own writing and you're not plagiarizing anything. Albeit with these specific essays, it'll probably be really hard to do so since the prompts are like very specific to my experiences. But still, just make sure that when you're writing your own essays, that your own voice and your own experiences really shine, and that you're not trying to emulate something that you saw on the internet, because again, I am just some guy. And with that, I think it's going to be all for today. So for you guys at home who are currently applying to colleges, and especially for those of you who are working on your Tufts applications, I wish you the best of luck. If after watching this video you're still interested in learning more about specific advice for how to fill out your supplemental essays, check out this video here, or feel free to check out any of the other videos that I have on my channel related to college applications.